Under the Cursed Moon Chapter 25, Hermione had always been curious about the 12 properties the Blacks owned across America. After settling into their new lives in Forks and establishing a connection with Billy Black and his family, her curiosity deepened. She wanted to explore the history behind each property, learn about their significance, and understand how they tied into the legacy of the Black family. Harry, she began one evening, flipping through a collection of documents Harry had shared with her. We've only seen the Forks property. I'd love to visit the rest of your properties. There's so much history here, and I think it would be fascinating to see where your family has roots. Harry, who was in the middle of organizing some paperwork, looked up, his eyes lighting up at the suggestion. That sounds like a brilliant idea, Hermione. I've always wanted to share that part of my life with you. And Teddy would love it too. He glanced at Teddy, who was busy playing with his toys, completely unaware of the conversation. Let's bring Leah along as well, Hermione suggested. She's become such a big part of our lives, and I think she'd enjoy the adventure. Plus, it would be nice for her to see more of the magical world. Absolutely, Harry agreed, smiling at the thought. The more, the merrier. Leah deserves to see what the Blacks have built over the years. Their journey began in the vast landscapes of Montana, where the Black family owned a sprawling ranch that seemed to stretch endlessly into the horizon. As they arrived, Leah felt a rush of excitement, eager to experience the wildlife and natural beauty that surrounded them. This is incredible, Leah exclaimed, stepping out of the car and taking a deep breath of fresh mountain air. The scent of pine and wildflowers filled her senses. I can't believe this is part of your family legacy. Harry smiled, watching her enthusiasm. This ranch has been in the family for generations. It's a great place for hunting and fishing, and it's perfect for connecting with nature. As they explored the ranch, they encountered a variety of wildlife. Deer grazing in the fields, birds chirping in the trees, and the gentle rustling of the wind through the grass. Teddy, brimming with energy, dashed ahead, eager to discover everything the ranch had to offer. After spending the day hiking and fishing in the nearby river, they reluctantly packed up, ready to continue their journey. Using the Flu Network, they traveled to Virginia, where the Blacks owned an elegant manor nestled among towering trees. The manor exuded charm and history, its stately architecture a testament to the family's long-standing presence in the area. This place is stunning, Hermione said, her eyes wide as they stepped inside. The grand foyer welcomed them with its high ceilings and antique furnishings. I can't wait to see the rest of it. They spent hours wandering through the manor, admiring the intricate details and rich history. Harry shared stories about his ancestors who had lived here, and Leah felt increasingly connected to the family's legacy. From Virginia, they ventured to a vibrant townhouse in New Orleans, where the lively atmosphere and rich culture enveloped them. The decor was colorful and eclectic, filled with art and music that reflected the city's spirit. Leah was particularly taken with the balcony overlooking the bustling streets, where they enjoyed beignets and café au lait from a local café. Next, they traveled to a cozy cabin in Vermont, perfect for winter getaways. The tranquil surroundings and the warm fireplace made it feel like a home away from home. I can imagine coming here for the holidays, Hermione said, her eyes twinkling with delight. Their travels took them to a beachfront villa in Colorado, which Leah declared was the most beautiful place they had visited so far. The panoramic views of the ocean were breathtaking, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore created a peaceful ambiance. I could stay here forever, Leah sighed, gazing out at the horizon. As they continued their journey, they explored a property in Arizona, where the desert landscape held its own unique beauty. They marveled at the luxury cabin in Oregon, where Harry had added special touches to make it feel like a true retreat. The penthouse in Chicago offered stunning city views, and they found themselves mesmerized by the bustling life below. Their last stop was a charming farmhouse in Kansas, where they soaked in the rural tranquility and appreciated the simplicity of life in the countryside. As they wandered through the farmhouse in Kansas, Leah's breath caught when she stumbled upon an enormous garage filled with vintage cars, their sleek forms covered in dust but still gleaming with the promise of restoration. It was as if she'd walked into a dream. What in the world? Leah muttered to herself, her hand lightly grazing the hood of a vintage Corvette, its paint still a brilliant red underneath the layer of dust. She was so engrossed in the sight of the cars that she didn't notice Harry entering the garage behind her. "Oh, those?" Harry said nonchalantly, glancing at the cars. "They're old things. I've never really paid much attention to them. Leah whipped around, her eyes wide. Old things. Harry, these aren't just old cars. They're vintage, classy cars. Do you have any idea how rare these are? Harry shrugged, looking a little sheepish. I tried starting a few of them, but they wouldn't budge. If you like one, you can take it. You'll just need to repair it first. Leah blinked, her mouth hanging open in shock. You're offering me a car? Harry raised an eyebrow. Sure, you can take anything you want from here. I have no use for them. Leah was stunned, glancing around at the nearly 50 cars in the garage. Some were from the early 1950s, others from the 60s and 70s, each one a collector's dream. Are you serious right now? These cars are worth a fortune, Harry. They're collectibles. And you're just casually offering one to me? Harry laughed softly. Leah, I'm rich beyond measure. What use do I have for a bunch of cars sitting in a garage? If it makes you happy, go ahead. Take your pick. After a moment of speechless hesitation, Leah finally settled on the Corvette, a car she'd always dreamed of driving. She ran her fingers over the sleek curves of the car, smiling softly. This one, she said, her voice full of admiration. It's perfect. Harry nodded, his own excitement beginning to build. Good choice, but it'll need some work. Leah couldn't believe her luck. You're really going to let me have this? Harry grinned. I'll do you one better. I'll repair it for you. Leah's eyes widened again. You're going to fix it yourself? Why not? Harry shrugged. I've got time. Besides, you're right. These cars are rare. It'd be a waste to leave them in disrepair. I think I'll start with your Corvette and then move on to the rest. It could be a fun project. Maybe I'll even use a little magic to give them a boost. Leah looked at him, her amazement now mixed with admiration. You're full of surprises, Harry. Harry smirked. You haven't seen anything yet. Over the next few days, Harry threw himself into the task of repairing the Corvette. With various new staffs busy managing business affairs and Teddy keeping Leah and Hermione entertained, Harry found that working on the car brought him a rare sense of focus and peace. He tinkered with the engine, fixed the upholstery, and even used his magic to enhance the car's speed, durability, and performance, while keeping its classic aesthetic intact. The more he worked on it, the more he grew to appreciate the craftsmanship of these vintage vehicles. One evening, as the sun began to set over the black mansion at Forks, Harry stood back to admire his work. The Corvette gleamed under the fading light, restored to its former glory and more. She's ready, Harry said, grinning as he wiped his hands on a rag. He had a feeling Leah would be thrilled when she saw it. When Leah saw the Corvette in its pristine condition, her face lit up like a child on Christmas morning. Harry, it's perfect, she exclaimed, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for the keys he handed her. I added a few magical touches, Harry admitted, his grin wide. But it's still the car you fell in love with. Now, it's just a little bit better. Leah couldn't hold back her excitement as she slid into the driver's seat. I don't know what to say. Thank you, Harry. Consider it a gift, Harry said. You've become family to us, Leah. This is just a small token of appreciation. Leah smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. She started the engine, which purred to life effortlessly, and gave Harry an enthusiastic nod before driving off for a test spin. As she sped down the country road, the wind whipping through her hair, she couldn't help but feel like her life had taken a magical turn she never expected. Back at his garage, Harry watched her circle the mansion, his own heart feeling light. Now, to tackle the rest of these beauties, he said, thinking back at the garage full of cars. I've got plenty of time, after all. After Leah returned from her test drive, practically glowing with excitement, Harry couldn't resist the urge to take the Corvette for a spin himself. As he slid into the driver's seat and revved the engine, he immediately felt a sense of comfort wash over him. The car handled beautifully, the simplicity of its design a refreshing change from the modern vehicles he was used to. There were no complicated electronics, no unnecessary buttons or switches. Just pure driving pleasure. It felt liberating. As he drove down the country roads, he couldn't help but appreciate how easy and intuitive it was to drive. The fact that he had subtly modified it with magic only made the experience more enjoyable. It was a perfect blend of classic engineering and magical enhancement, and Harry found himself thinking that maybe he needed something like this for himself. A classic car, simple yet elegant, with just the right amount of magic to make it even better. When he returned to the mansion, he had already made up his mind. He needed a vintage car of his own, one that he could restore, modify, and make uniquely his, and so, he began planning. His idea was simple. He would transport one car at a time from the Kansas farmhouse to the garage in Forks, using magic shrink it and bring them through the flow network without anyone noticing. He would work on each car, one by one, and when he was finished, he'd return them to Kansas. The next one, however, would be for him. The following day, Harry made his way back to the farmhouse. The collection of vintage cars seemed even more impressive now that he was actively searching for one of his own. He spent hours walking through the rows of vehicles, inspecting each one closely. Some were too flashy, others too rugged. But he was looking for something that screamed for attention, and he wanted a car that was timeless, beautiful, and suited his tastes. Finally, after what felt like an endless search, he found it. Tucked away in the far corner of the garage, partially covered by a dusty old sheet, was a 1969 Dodge Charger. Its sleek crimson body shone dimly through the dust, and Harry could instantly picture what it would look like once fully restored. It was perfect, classic, elegant, and full of potential. Harry couldn't help but smile as he pulled the sheet off the car and ran his hand along the smooth lines of the bodywork. This was the car. It felt right. The Dodge Charger had an understated beauty to it, too flashy and a statement. And once he'd worked his magic on it, literally, it would be something truly special. Without wasting any time, Harry used his wand to transport the car back to the garage at the mansion. It arrived with a soft thud, settling into the space he had cleared for it. He stood there for a moment, admiring the car in its new setting, already imagining the improvements he would make. Hermione and Teddy would surely be intrigued by his new project, and Harry looked forward to sharing it with them. But for now, this was a quiet moment between him and his next big endeavor. He couldn't wait to get started. And so, with the tools and magic at his disposal, Harry prepared to breathe new life into the Dodge Charger. He smiled to himself, knowing that when it was done, he would have something truly magnificent, something uniquely his, born from the legacy of his family but transformed by his own hands and magic.